North Macedonia so far is an underdog of our trip.
Join us in North Macedonia as we wander the most peaceful capital city we've ever been, walk a nearby canyon trail, taste wines in one of the oldest wine regions in the world, with winemaking dating back almost 2,500 years, and explore an ancient archaeological site with the most stunning mosaics, before finishing up in the romantic town of Ohrid, perched on the shore of one of the oldest lakes in the world.
We're in North Macedonia.
When we arrived in the capital city of Skopje, the ancient-looking buildings reminded us of some buildings in Austria and Hungary. However, after speaking to some local guys, we discovered this grand aesthetic is the result of a controversial project where the government spent hundreds of millions of euros wrapping post-war era buildings in classical facades and installing hundreds of bronze statues. The aim was to boost tourism and tie North Macedonia's national identity to ancient history. However, it has been polarizing for locals, with many feeling it is kitsch, corrupt, and costly. From an outsider's point of view, visually we thought the city was beautiful and very quiet, with hardly any other tourists around, and we especially appreciated the rich murals inside these two churches. The Museum of the Macedonian Struggle for Independence is located in this grand building at the former site of the National Bank of Yugoslavia and is well worth a visit. The immersive exhibits cover the period starting with the resistance against Ottoman rule in the late 1800s up until the Declaration of Independence from Yugoslavia in 1991. After the heaviness of the museum, we headed for a few drinks at Al Mixology Bar, which had a fantastic creative menu. We had a tasting flight as well as several cocktails each, with our favourites being the Duchess and Cherry Blush. We then made our way for dinner at this 190-year-old house-turned restaurant where we tried a couple of iconic national dishes, including the slow-cooked bean dish, Tavče Gravče. The next morning we picked up our hire car and made our way to Tikves wine region for the night. We're at the Lazar Winery in North Macedonia. This is something we've been so excited for since we booked it.
So tonight we're going to go for a 6-course meal with wine pairings. So we're excited for that.
Look how fancy this is. They've got their logo printed on the shower glass. We checked out the winery grounds before enjoying the first of many glasses of wine and a quince brandy.
We're in our best outfits, ready for some dinner.
And we're also going to hopefully do a little wine tour first in a couple of minutes. Tomorrow our plans are to go to Stobi, which is an ancient archaeological site.
From the 4th century, apparently.
Yes, and that's about a 5-minute walk from here, so that's exciting. But yeah, we're going to go for our wine tour now.
The lovely manager gave us a personal tour of the winery before starting our meal off with a glass of sparkling Brut Rosé and warm bread. The first course was a gorgonzola pear salad with a glass of Gewürztraminer, followed by pork tenderloin for Ricky and baba ganoush for me with balan, an oak-aged white wine. The third course was sea bass for Ricky and baked cow's cheese with green fig relish for me, with a glass of Grand Cuvée, which is a dry white wine aged in oak. This was followed by Kratosia, a dry full-bodied red wine, paired with a pork bayadera, which is a Balkan way of cooking pork belly for Ricky, and forest mushrooms with hummus for me. The second to last course was a beef steak for Ricky and vegetable risotto for me, with a glass of Bukofor, a dry red wine from the Vranets grape. Vranets means black stallion. We finished with a dessert of poached pear served with a dry rosé. This dessert looks basic, but the flavours were insane. The price is so reasonable at under 60 euros per person. This meal is in our top 3 best dining experiences we've ever had together.
We're just walking now to see Stobi. We've had our amazing dinner last night, 6 courses with 7 wines it turned out to be. And we've had a lovely breakfast this morning.
They was even able to do the 6 courses with vegetarian options for
Yeah.
Liana as well, so that was cool.
So cool, because I was expecting to actually have to order off the menu and not get the whole experience that Ricky was having. So I was thrilled. It was amazing.
And we actually don't have a hangover, so the wines must be decent quality.
Good quality.
We soon arrived at Stobi, where we were immediately impressed by the audio guide app and the scale and quality of the site. This 7,000-seat theatre was built in the 1st century for plays and later hosted violent gladiator games and animal fights.
We are at the most incredible mosaic floor I have ever seen. This is amazing. Have a look. It's a baptistry. We need to look up what that is. I think some kind of a church or where you're baptized. don't know, but it's amazing.
I was correct. A baptistry is where people were baptized, and the mosaic features peacocks and deer representing rebirth and purification. The ancient town was once a center for religion and trade, especially salt, but following looting, invasions and earthquakes, it was abandoned in the 6th century.
Stobi is amazing. We have it almost to ourselves. I've only seen about 2 other people walking around. There is a tour group that we've just clocked coming in the door. It's about 10 a.m, so there must be tour groups arriving around now, but otherwise we've had it all to ourselves. It is still undergoing works, so there's a lot still undiscovered, but as you can see, it's massive and just stunning. Can you imagine having like the Acropolis in Greece, in Athens, to yourself? Absolutely not. North Macedonia so far is an underdog of our trip. We actually chose North Macedonia because of its proximity to Greece. We wanted to come to Greece and start our trip there, and that's how we decided on North Macedonia, because you can enter it via road from Greece, and then same with Albania. So hopefully there's some more amazing stuff in store for us next.
This is often how we come across the destinations we end up enjoying best, such as Slovenia the last time we were in Europe. We look at a map and go from there, aiming to pick destinations that are less known amongst other tourists. We had lunch at a different winery where the wine and food were great, but the service was very lacking, in stark contrast to Lazar. We hit the road, passing back through multiple toll booths on our way to Skopje, where we stayed for another 2 nights to explore the town's markets, eateries and fortress, and walk the Matka Canyon trail the following day. The original fortress on this site was built in the 6th century from materials taken from a Roman city that had been destroyed by an earthquake near what is now Skopje. The fortress has been destroyed by earthquakes, rebuilt, abandoned, excavated, restored and vandalized during its history, and there isn't much known about chunks of its time. From the fortress walls you can see views over the city's old and new sides. The next morning we headed to Matka Canyon, where we expected to walk a peaceful trail but were immediately greeted by souvenir shops and busloads of other tourists.
On the canyon is that it's pretty, but it is ruined by rubbish and roaring boats, so the walk is not so peaceful.
And there are busloads, and I mean busloads and busloads of tour groups.
We tried to put aside our negative opinions and enjoy the walk with its lovely forest and canyon views.
So we are a little way through the hike now, and we think that as you get into the trail, it actually turns out really nice. It's just the start, there's loads of rubbish everywhere and massive queues for the boats. But after you look past that and get into the trail, it's actually really worth doing.
I agree, but not so much. I don't love it. I think the nature is ruined a lot for me, just by seeing the rubbish at the start, and then also by the boats roaring past the entire trail. Like, it's not very peaceful. Like, I'm here to be out in nature, and that's what I thought I was getting based on other things I've seen about it, and yeah, it's just pissed me off a bit.
Some parts of the trail weren't very well maintained, like some of the safety barriers along the edge, and some of the vegetation was a bit overgrown and could have done with a tidy up. But for the most part, the trail was pleasant with varying views and plants, and the water in the canyon was so clear and blue. By the time we had walked to the end of the trail, our opinions had shifted to be a little less negative.
We're now on our way back. As we said earlier, it's definitely a lovely place once you get past the start and all the boats and all the rubbish at the start, and you get further into the canyon. The walkway is nice. There is a cave you can go to by boat, so we will try that out once we've got back to the start, maybe grab the drink. What's your opinion so far?
Yeah, look, I like it, the walk itself, but again, yeah, the boats, the rubbish, just being a bit commercially touristy with the boat trip. I wouldn't do that if it was up to me. It's somebody else wants to do that, and yeah, and the souvenir shops, No. They could charge tourists an entry fee in order to pay somebody to clean up the place.
And then it'll make a much more better overall experience, is our honest opinion.
We made our way back to the start of the trail, where the boats full of other tourists were waiting for us to take a look at this cave that seemed to be so popular. Inside the cave was just as I expected, crowded and not even great. Maybe we're spoilt, but we've been to some amazing caves on our travels, and this was the least impressive. We also noticed there were generators running, keeping the lights on inside the cave, which will be causing severe disruption of the ecosystems inside the cave. Overall, Matka Canyon didn't live up to our expectations and was one of the most crowded nature destinations we've ever been. Back in Skopje, we visited this really cool aqueduct, the history of which is quite unknown. We then had dinner at this funky bar near our guest house, which had awesome food and cocktails at really reasonable prices. The following morning we got a bus to Ohrid, a historic city on the lakefront of one of Europe's oldest lakes. Lake Ohrid is shared with Albania and has beautifully clear water. On our first day we had lunch at a cute seafood place along the lakefront, which was recommended to us by our guest house. There are walking paths from the town which take you past this old church, around the shoreline to viewpoints and swimming beaches. We had a swim at Labino Beach and continued along the path past the fortress, looping back into town.
In for a little swim at the lake here in Ohrid, and we're now walking to find some kind of a theatre.
Amphitheatre.
Yeah, a theatre, and we're walking past the fortress wall. It looks really cool, but I don't think we need to go in.
And we're walking through lush green forest as well on the way there. We come up some dodgy footpaths. I'm not sure we was going the right way, but in the end we found it.
Nearly walked into a spider.
Nearly walked into a spider. Woo!
The ancient theatre of Ohrid was built in 200 BC. During Roman times, the theatre was used for gladiator fights and was also a site of execution of Christians, so it became despised by the locals, who later abandoned and buried the site after the downfall of the Roman Empire. It was only rediscovered accidentally in the 1980s. The Church of St. Sophia is considered one of the most important monuments of North Macedonia, with its incredible rare frescoes dating back as far as the 11th century. When the Ottoman Empire took over in the 15th century, the church was converted into a mosque and its walls were whitewashed and plastered over. Because of this protective layer, many of the paintings survived to be restored after World War II. That evening we went to Pache Wine Shop, where for about 15 euros each we had 4 wines that's really nice. And a charcuterie board. There was enough food that we didn't need dinner, and the wines were all beautiful North Macedonian varieties, including Temjanica and Vranitz, which were our favourites of the country. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Rakia. The next morning, we went on a day trip on the lake with boat Armada. I'm usually apprehensive about group day trips as I don't love being surrounded by other tourists, but this was a boat trip we both enjoyed. It wasn't too crowded and had comfortable seats and a bar. The first stop it usually makes is the Bay of Bones Museum, a reconstruction of the settlement of pile dwellers who lived on a platform on the top of the water thousands of years ago. However, this is closed on a Monday, so we drove past it to the St. Norm estate. Here we had free time for about 4 hours, which was a little too long due to missing out on the museum stop. We took a rowboat tour on the St. Norm Springs, a series of clear underwater springs that are fed by a lake through a 10-year natural filtration process. We also wandered the estate, where there were tons of souvenir shops selling mostly plastic stuff and magnets, shared a nice pizza overlooking the lake, and then visited the monastery of St. Norm before making the return boat journey to town.
Cicolata cichita, cicolata cichita, harinane, cicolati cichita, cicolati cichita, harinane, cicolati cichita, cicolati cichita, cichita.
Thank you.
We headed back to Pace Wine Shop for another wine tasting and charcuterie board, as we loved it so much the first day. We then headed up the hill above the church to watch the sunset. We loved our time in North Macedonia. The food and wine were top-notch, and we found our money stretched further here, with food and hotels costing around half of the EU average. The country was also relatively non-touristy, other than the Matka Canyon and some parts of Ohrid, and we especially enjoyed the ancient city of Stobi, which we had almost entirely to ourselves. The next morning we headed for Albania, where we met up with Ricky's friend from England and his partner, both of whom I had only met once. We had the best week together in Albania, so like and subscribe to keep an eye out for our next video and scan the QR code to check out our Instagram.